Imagine living in a world where books are banned, where history is rewritten overnight, and our own thoughts could potentially get us executed. Sounds dystopian, right? Well, bad news for us, lads. This is not just 1984's world, but it's also ours now. Welcome back, my gorgeous viewers and readers. I hope your weekend was filled with wholesome walks around the park and get intellectual books before they get banned for being too political. After everything that has been going on for the past few months in the media, more specifically in the last few weeks, I can't stop myself but imagine or think that the world we live now is eerily similar to the world we see in 1984. I can't stop myself but think that we live in Oceania right now. And let me tell you why. For those who haven't read the book, 1984 follows Winston, who is a 39-year-old man who lives in Strip 1, which in ancient times was called Great Britain, and is one of the provinces of a superstate called Oceania. This superstate is controlled by the party, and the head of state is called Big Brother, which is the head figure of the country, basically. And in order to make sure that the rules of the party are actually followed through, he has multiple ministries to ensure that everything is in order. And one of the ministries is the Ministry of Truth, where Winston works at. And the main responsibility of the Ministry of Truth is to get all these historical records and just change them according to the rules of the party or according to what Big Brother decides to say. From the get-go, we see that Winston doesn't necessarily agree with the party or with Big Brother per se, and actually he dreams of rebellion and freedom. Unfortunately, that makes him a thought criminal, which is someone who, even though hasn't committed any crimes, the fact that he is thinking that way puts the regime at risk. But fortunately for him, he is not alone in this. There are other people who also critique the regime of Big Brother, like, for example, Mr. Charrington, who is an antique shop owner who writes criticism against the party and against Big Brother, or Julia, who is his lover but also loathes the party, and lastly, O'Brien, who is technically his boss but is actually part of a secret society called the Brotherhood that is actually fighting against the party and against Big Brother. Winston then receives a book from O'Brien called The Theory and Practice of Oligarchical Collectivism by Emmanuel Goldstein, who is this rival figure of Big Brother, who actually critiques the party and critiques the figure of Big Brother, making him a threat for everything Oceania stands for, right? In this book, we see criticisms of how the party operates, or what are the true meanings of the party's slogans, but also more importantly, we also see how this whole oligarchy can actually be turned down if we riot and we rebel. However, Winston never gets the opportunity to read the last chapter of the book, which is about what did the party do to get the power and what do they do to maintain it, because right before they start reading the last chapter of the book, it is found out that Mr. Charrington, who is the antique shop owner, is actually a spy for Big Brother and for the party. So therefore, both Winston and Julia get detained. Now, I don't want to give you any more context of the book, just in case you want to read it, but what you're probably thinking is there are no similarities between 1984's dystopia and today's society, and I thought so too. I thought I was going crazy until I started seeing the patterns. Let me show you. The first thing that I see both worlds have in common is the fact that we use anti-intellectualism as a common practice, right? In 1984, we see that there is a new language called Newspeak, which is a stripped down language where certain words are being stripped down from the dictionaries and are slowly being forgotten by society, right? If you don't have a word for it, you can't really rebel against it. Now look at us into our society. No one is really banning words at the moment, right? But if we look into our society, if we look at ourselves, we see that all of us are overworked, we are burnt out, we are living paycheck to paycheck and doing more hours than a clock, right? And obviously we are burnt out, we are exhausted, we don't want to do anything. We don't have the time nor the money to learn a new skill or to practice a new hobby or either to reflect, right? We are so on the go that the only thing that we can do is numb ourselves. We scroll. We are addicted to social media. What we actually do is binging content. We devour smutty books and then forget about them, or read or watch the same Netflix series over and over again because we all get the comfort of knowing what is going to happen next. Or we see the same four celebrities or influencers that are actually trying to sell us this idea of closeness and proximity, but what they are actually doing is selling us something. They are trying to make a consumer out of us. And this is what bewilders me the most, because in 1984, people were forced to be ignorant. But in our future or in our society, we are choosing to be ignorant. We have the option, right? We can make ourselves better. We can learn things, right? But at this point, we are so exhausted that we are not asking questions. We are forgiving our curiosity and we are forgetting about ourselves and trying to make ourselves better, right? And like, what is even more depressing is the fact that we are not asking questions, but also we are not receiving answers, right? We are just doing absolutely nothing. And that is exactly how the party wins. That is how we lose our humanity. Another thing that I see both societies have in common is media manipulation, right? In 1984, we very clearly see how Winston is actively changing history. He is changing the facts with the Ministry of Truth, right? What he does is he takes original concepts or original like historical facts, and what he does is just rewrite them and then just throws the old ones away, right? They are actively changing what happened. And obviously, when we go onto our present, this is not something that happens, or at least it's not common practice. It still happens in certain places, but actually what happens in Western society is that we are getting fed certain specific information. Like, if you go onto your social media platforms, what do you think you'll see? You won't see the actual news, right? What you'll see is celebrity scandals or social media drama or influencers beefing with each other or things that are too scandalous, right? Things that grab your attention. You won't see boring news from the Times, for example, because no one really cares and everyone just scrolls, right? You don't see the actual government policies that are actually destroying your life or that are actually destroying the society you live in, right? Because nobody cares about that, or nobody puts the attention on it because they are too busy looking at two celebrities fighting. For example, why is it that every time that Taylor Swift does something, she is on the news for weeks, even though she has been very clearly supporting Trump, even though 10 years ago she was so vocal against him, right? Like, nobody seems to care about the fact that she is actively supporting Trump. Or, for example, why do we see so much red pill alpha type of agenda? Like, for example, Charlie Kirk or any of the other like subhumans that we see on the internet, because they are so loud, right? And it's because all of this is a distraction. All of this is used as a way to hide government policies or government scandals that will actually potentially ruin and change the whole history. Like, for example, the Epstein files. When we see all this news about Charlie Kirk dying or being assassinated, we are not seeing any of the Epstein files. That is strange, right? Like, for me, this is sus, this is suspicious, this sounds like it is a cover up. And the worst part is that just like Winston, we actually just accept that this is happening, right? Like, for example, when I went on social media when the Charlie Kirk news appeared, actually all the comments that I saw on TikTok or on Twitter were about or were saying, these Epstein files must be crazy, right? We even know that this is happening, but we don't actually put any importance. We are just like thinking of the next thing that will happen, or the next drama that will keep us busy and will keep us like consuming. The last point, and probably the most important for me, that both societies have in common is the fact that there is a very clear rise of conservatism, because they both have a very clear enemy, right? Which is invented. So when we look into 1984 society, we see that the very clear enemy is Emmanuel Goldstein, right? He is this figure that is everything that is wrong with society, right? There is a problem. If there is a problem at a lower level, it's because Emmanuel Goldstein's, right? And then Big Brother's society, or Big Brother's appearance remains untouched, because he is not the one creating these problems. It's Emmanuel Goldstein, even if it exists or not. Sounds familiar? Well, it actually fucking is, because in our normal society, we see that politicians, influencers, or people of power alike, they all have the same issue, right? They all have the same enemy. If you look into the US, or if you look into to the UK or anywhere in Europe, we see that the main problem are the immigrants, right? We always see immigrants this, immigrants that, illegal immigrants coming everywhere. Immigrants are not a problem. They never have been, right? And they never will. They are the ones that are actually pushing society, and they are the ones that are pushing like the West in like forwards, right? They are the ones that are actually pushing through everything. Or for example, for the US, queer people, they are the problem, right? Or women taking their own choices and actually being free for the first time, they are the problem. We always, like all these societies and all these politicians, always trying to find something in common to hate. It's literally all smoke and mirrors, right? At this point, even though they are creating policies for quote unquote, like get rid of the problem, which is, for example, illegal immigrants, actually, these policies are actually affecting us in a bigger level. They are affecting everyone, but this remains unnoticed, right? And more specifically, in our nowadays society, we see how these smoke and mirrors are actually introduced into aesthetics, into our social media platforms, right? If women are the problem because now we have the power to choose, we don't need to get married and have 14 children in order to survive, right? What we do is we introduce mommy Mormon bloggers who the only thing they do is bake and breed, right? So therefore we create this sort of aesthetic of this sort of desire of having this perfect life. But at the end of the day, it's still smoke and mirrors. Same thing with the hustle alpha bros, right? All these cars, all these women, all these fucking guns, everything, all of this is just a distraction. It's smoke and mirrors, right? What they are trying to do is sell you an image in order for you to consume these things, right? And the worst part is that politicians and like all these people in power know very damn well what they are doing. And influencers know what is their role, right? They know that they can get a benefit out of supporting these ideas, because what they are doing is they are giving you the option to choose, right? Like you have the option to follow this path. But actually what they are doing in reality is that they are selling you a story that never existed in the first place. At the end of the day, all these issues, like the obsession for meaningless content, or the manipulation of what we see and don't see, or how badly our world smells of authoritarianism, this is something that Orwell has actually advised us against, right? This is something that he has warned us, but we actually have paid no attention whatsoever. Because here is the ugly truth. In 1984's world, people were not aware of how much control they were giving to Big Brother or to the party, right? And this is exactly the same thing that is happening in our world. We are giving up our attention, our curiosity, our humanity, all because we are too exhausted, because that's exactly what society wants us to be. They want us to be exhausted. They want us to be so burnt out that we don't ask questions, we just comply. And what is even more chilling is the fact that we are not giving up our freedom because there is violence in the streets, right? They are not taking it from us. We are giving it up willingly. We are so obsessed with celebrity drama or TikTok influencers or things that actually do not mind at all, that they are not that important at the end of the day, that we don't even see that this freedom is being taken from us, right? We are giving it up willingly because we are not aware. So ask yourself, when you scroll on TikTok or you watch the news or repeat everything that everyone else says, are you thinking for yourself, or are you letting other people say what matters to you? And this is why 1984 matters to this day, right? This is not just a dusty classic that your professor or that your teacher forced you to read. This is a mirror. This is actually something made reality. It is a warning, right? And this is why it is so important for you to read and for you to actually pay attention to this book. So here's my challenge for you. When you see a headline or a piece of news or a viral post that seems to be a little bit too perfect, or that the timing is too good to be true, think to yourself, if I actually pay attention to this piece of news, or if I actually go deep into the rabbit hole and actually believe on this or in this thing that they are telling me, who is benefiting from this? Who is benefiting from me talking about this thing? Then the answer will probably come into your mind and will actually surprise you. And that's exactly what George Orwell would want you to do, to keep questioning, to keep asking the uncomfortable questions. Now, what I would love to know is, have you found any other similarities between 1984 and our common society that I might have missed in this video? Or anyways, do you think that I'm exaggerating and that I am a conspiracist? I would love to know. Please put them down in the comments. I want to know your own interpretation. And if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more deep dives into dark, gothic, politically charged literature, this is the place for you. Please make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please also feel free to follow me on my social media. This is exactly your place to be. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you later. Bye, guys.